Hey everyone, Sergio with the Rideshare Guy. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Well, today I'm joined by Robert from St. Augustine, Florida, who's a 9-year veteran, but I'm going to have him introduce himself. Welcome, Robert.
Well, thanks for having me on, Sergio. I appreciate it. My name's Robert. I live in St. Augustine, Florida. I've driven in a number of different markets for Uber and Lyft. I started out first on Uber, Oklahoma City, and then Dallas and Fort Worth. Then when things kind of opened up in Las Vegas, I was working there for a couple of years. Then I worked in Northern California, Sacramento, San Francisco area. And then back about 3 years ago, I moved from NorCal to St. Augustine.
Okay, so you've seen plenty of different markets, plenty of different cities, different rhythm in every city, obviously, different demand and supply patterns. But so the reason I'm actually interviewing Robert today is because, obviously he watches our channel and, he had an interesting comment. So if any of you have comments like that, you will have a chance of getting on behind the wheel. He said, I want to be on and I'm sure we'll learn a lot from each other, right? And I said, all right, Robert, no muzzle, no script. We're just going to get out here and, it's not a debate. I don't create debates in behind the wheels. We just want to learn from drivers. And he's been doing it for 9 years. I mean, if you're not going to learn from this guy, I don't know who you're going to learn from. And so with that said, what'd you do, by the way, before you got into gig economy or rideshare, Robert?
Try to do this with another source of income, which I would highly recommend to anybody out there. Don't try to just do this as your only source of income because you're setting yourself up for disaster. You get sick, car breaks down or something, you can never get that money back that you lose. So you need to have some other income coming in. At this point, I have retirement income. So, typical to a lot of guys in Florida that are doing this. But before I got into rideshare, I owned a couple businesses. One was retail, one was professional services. Then I also worked in casinos. I was did everything from drive the tram car on the boardwalk in Atlantic City to be like, shift manager in a big, huge casino and everything in between. Mostly dealt craps. So I'm pretty oblivious to, there's really not much people can say to me that's going to get me going after all these years. And plus, I know how to handle people who are drunk and may not be in the best frame of mind.
A
And
perfect transition, actually, from being a casino floorman you know, to doing rideshare at drunk hours. But the point is that, he has a lot to share, I'm pretty sure. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut up unless I have to have to disagree here and there, obviously. But I'm going to shut up and listen to his. I mean, I'm not going to call it a rant session, right? Because I don't know. I honestly don't know what he's going to say. We don't script these things, so
right.
floor is yours, sir. There we go.
Okay, thanks. Well, basically, what I would say to people with this forum, and I appreciate you, letting me do this because I've thought of doing video myself, especially when you get frustrated. You're like, man, I want to just tell people what's going on here. But I
Okay.
think a a change of thinking has to happen with drivers. It's not just about cherry picking or doing one thing. Like I know how to make tips, right? I'm going to make tips no matter what. Um, it's to me, it's more about looking at the business itself and how much does it cost you per mile. Now, I'm going off government figures. The end of 2022, the end of the year, uh, the government said that this is not the tax deduction, but this is the cost of operation and ownership of a motor vehicle, average. So it might be more. I drive a Prius. Mine might be a little bit less. Someone else who's out there trying to make his truck payment on a Ford F-150 could be paying a lot more. But the average is 72 cents a mile. Okay. And, you know, what's happening here in Florida, most rides on average type of rides are paying 50 cents, 60 cents, Lyft even less sometimes. The closest major airport is Jacksonville. It's about 60 miles from here, and they routinely send rides that are $29, and you got to come back empty. I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous. You know, there's no way you can make money. So the way you have to think about this is you have your cost of ownership and operation. Forget about keeping track of how much gas you use and everything. This is what it costs you per mile. And by the way, another thing that I hear that is not from you guys, but just in general misinformation I hear people saying is, you know, when you step into your vehicle at the beginning of the day, reset the ride thing to 0 and keep track of every mile you drive, because it's not just when you have a rider in the car. Okay. You're like a painter. Okay. A painter can deduct his miles from his house because he has to bring his ladders and his paint and his tools and everything. And our tool is our car. We've got to bring it with us. So you have to charge for those miles. So you got to charge for every mile that you're out there the whole time you're out there. And then, it's really not about per hour, because if it's costing you 72 cents a mile and you're making 60 cents, you're losing 12 cents a mile every ride, and you're getting paid nothing for your time. So something has to be done about that. And I think the rideshare companies you would think that they had thought this all the way through, but people are going, well, they're just waiting to have self-driving cars. Well, guess what? They say, oh, then we don't have to pay the drivers. You're not paying us now. That's the thing. They're not paying us now. The expense is not to the driver. They're not even paying us what it costs to operate the vehicle. So if they're operating a vehicle, they're in for a rude awakening. They can't pay that vehicle 50 cents a mile. That vehicle is going to demand its ownership and operation cost.
Yeah, let me play the devil's advocate here for a second. The 72 cents a mile is, as of this year, 5 cents above the IRS standard mileage deduction that everybody uses for their taxes, right?
That is correct.
And okay, what year is your Prius, by the way? Well, you're driving the perfect car for rideshare, but what year is it?
It's a 2016.
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely driving the perfect car for rideshare. Mostly depreciated, very low cost of operation, and obviously, it sips gas as opposed to guzzle gas. But I think the 72 cents that you bring up is extremely high. Like for your car, I would bet anything if you were to do a little bit of CPM research, cost per mile research, I'll bet you your car is nothing more than probably 35 to 38 cents a mile for operating. Now, I get what you're saying. However, I think 72 cents is high. But the
That's
gist
coming
of
from
your
the government,
comment is that,
Sergio.
huh?
That's coming from the government. That's
No,
why
I
they
know, but
raised up
you know, government, we don't believe the government.
well,
Government.
and the other thing to keep in mind too is that's as of the end of 2022.
Yeah.
Now we've 20% inflation every year. I
No,
know a
that's
lot
true.
about the
That
numbers.
part is very true. That part is very true. That
Now we're looking at 85 cents a mile, maybe.
yeah. I assure you that the earnings of drivers have not kept pace with inflation.
Oh God,
Without a
no.
question. Without a question. And I respect what you're saying, because you're saying it approached this from a business standpoint of view, as opposed to just willy-nilly drive. But then if all the trips are being sent at 60 cents a mile, while let's say with the inflation, cost is 80 cents, why do you think people are doing this? I mean, why? Nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head.
There's a lot of desperate people out there. You got
Okay.
people who can't pay their rent, they can't pay their electric bill, they can't pay. Listen, I have a nickname for this.
Okay.
Sergio, have you ever read that book, The Grapes of Wrath?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's about California
Yeah.
during the Depression.
Yep.
And it's about these people that come out there from Oklahoma, and they've lost everything. And they give them these things. They say, "Oh, come on out here. You're going to make 10 cents a bushel for peaches when you get here." And so they tell 500 people about it, and each of them tells 10 of their friends, and 5,000 people show up at the job. That
Yep.
oversaturation like we have now.
Yeah.
And then when they show up there, the family says, "Oh, we're going to be good. There's 10 of us. We can all do this." And they go, "Well, no, it's not 10 cents anymore. It's 3 cents now. And you see all those people outside the gate? If you don't like it, we'll let them in and they'll do it for 2 cents." So their algorithm is really that. It's a grapes of wrath algorithm. They are exploiting people who are otherwise in desperate situations, need food, need grocery, need diapers, need baby formula. I mean, I know I've done it. How many times have I been out there like trying to cover the electric bill? You
Mhm.
know, I'm not telling you that I'm any kind of business genius, but at the same time, they're doing so many things that are just so uh, underhanded, and it's I'm not sure I mean, I know what the answer would be for me
Okay.
if I was running a company, but they're not going to do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So besides, I mean, you said you're retired, right? You're doing it
Yeah,
for cash flow purposes, probably, I don't know. I mean, if you're collecting Social Security or not, but
yeah, I
uh,
I am, and because we don't make any money doing this for tax purposes for the most part, it
yeah.
doesn't interfere with my Social Security. So,
Right. So are you are you saying that the rideshare these days is like the perfect tax deduction actually because none of us are making money?
well, I'm not saying it. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That's what it is.
So it's the
And
best tax loophole on the planet.
so if and I hear these guys going, "Oh, I made 200 today."
Uh-huh.
How? No, you didn't. Did you
Yeah.
drive 300 miles? And did it cost you 72 cents a mile? No, you
Yeah.
lost $10 and you made nothing for your time, and you were out there for 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's the thing that pisses me. Oh, excuse
No,
me.
no, you can say whatever you want. We can even
Yeah,
cuss, so it's okay.
yeah. That's the thing that pisses me off the most, is that there's no accommodation made for the time. Now, when I was in California, and what is that? What was that prop? Uh,
22.
yeah, whatever that was. That
Yeah.
was actually, for me, I was like, man, this is great. You're guaranteed at least minimum wage, and what is it, 30 cents
Yeah,
a minute, or
35
30
now.
cents,
Thanks to us, it's 35, yeah.
35, is that, Sergio, I forget, is it 35 a minute or 35 a mile?
35 cents an active mile.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, and then plus, if you drove enough, they covered your insurance.
Yeah,
Now, I worked 3 days a week as a casino dealer in
yeah,
Northern California,
yeah,
and I did rideshare 2, 3 days a week, and I was
yeah,
fine. And that was during the pandemic. I was making,
yeah,
it's good.
yeah,
And there was no upfront. Uh, and they would also use this thing called, remember, Sergio, when they did this thing called cardinal miles?
No, I don't remember that. Okay,
That's where, like, say you're in Sacramento, right?
okay,
And if you're familiar with the area, UC Davis, you have to go north, get on a bridge, and go out a causeway to get to where
yeah,
Davis is. But from where I lived, it was basically across the river on a straight line. It was like 5 miles.
So they would say, here's a ride for you. It's 5 miles away.
Yeah.
No, it was 22 miles away
Yeah.
because they're using cardinal miles.
Yeah.
And they go, well, we just don't know how to, I would complain
Yeah.
and get all angry, and they would say, well, we just don't have the technology. Sure. Of
Yeah.
course.
Now that, I mean, I'm pretty sure, now that we decided that rideshare is basically using your car like an ATM machine for cash flow. And
I've heard you say that before, and I agree 100% with you.
okay, and it's the best tax deduction on the planet. So now I know why 7.5 million people are doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because then the driver community may not be as dumb as we think they are, but but no, with all kidding aside, so we decided on that part, which we agree on. So we need to find something that juices up this conversation. So you're in Florida. I mean, I don't know what kind of political leaning you're doing these days, right? What do you see? What do you say? Because we've been talking about this for a year. It's probably the main reason for oversaturation. Do you see or have you seen in your city a lot of people, let's say illegals,
Yes.
driving? Have you seen that?
Yes. Oh God, yeah. And I'll
Okay.
tell you what I've seen, especially up in Jacksonville.
Okay.
I'll go to pick somebody up, and I'll be picking up like, you know, a 70-year-old black woman at church, and she, oh, thank God it's you. I'm like, what's wrong? She goes, well, last guy came, it was the right car, it was the right tag, it was supposed to be a woman, and it was a guy who didn't speak any English, and he had a baby in the car seat facing frontwards. you know.
Jesus.
And
Yeah.
I said to her, I said, let me ask you a question. Why did you get in the car? And she goes, well, I needed to ride. I can't walk home. And my opinion, Sergio, I listen, having lived in California, fully aware of what's going on out there and the homelessness and everything else. And, what they're doing here now is they've been building a lot of what they call low income, like apartments and small townhouses and things, brand new. And they're filling them up with people, and the government's paying the bill. That's what's going on. I see it because I go in there all the time.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean,
I
you
don't.
being you being a red state, I would think that would be less than California probably, but I guess not.
No, it's because people are greedy. It's an
Yeah.
easy, if you're a builder and you're putting up those kind of properties, you're going to make a fortune.
Yeah.
But having
Uh,
said that, I don't um, have a problem with anybody that wants to come to the United States, work hard, and be a productive citizen and not a criminal.
okay.
I really don't. I feel that some consideration must be given, particularly if they're handing out driver's licenses. I mean, I just read an article in Florida. They had a line like around the block, building like 3 times and down the block. So they're giving out driver's licenses.
Yeah. And those people are all going to do gig work, as you know, because that's the
Oh yeah,
easiest barriers to entry, right? There's no barriers to entry.
yeah.
I mean, if they're not going to do rideshare because they don't have a car, they're going to do it, delivery or whatever, right?
Well, another thing that's happening, Sergio. I don't know if I'm sure you've probably heard about this because you get hundreds of emails every day. People running ads on Craigslist for
Yep.
drivers,
Yep.
and that's happening here like crazy. And then, you go to the airport, sit there at the airport, which, by the way, is geo-fenced in a Walmart parking lot. It's just a nightmare. So you you won't get any airport rides. All you get are like $3 ride from Walmart, if someone's picking up them and all their groceries up, and they're
Yeah.
all exclusive, of course. So you're rejecting them, and everything. I could go on for hours to tell you everything that's wrong, but the thing that's got to be right here is accommodation has to be made, because what really aggravates the hell out of me is when they go, and I've heard you talk about this too, Sergio, so I think we're going to agree on this. When they talk about, oh, well, we have expenses. Well,
guess what? It's not my problem if you have a commercial insurance expense. I contracted with you to drive them.
Yeah.
And I fulfilled my thing. So whatever your costs are your costs. But please be respectful of what my costs are or what the average cost is for your driver. And
Yeah.
also know that no one's making anything for their time.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a vicious cycle that's I don't see how it's going to end well.
Yeah.
You know?
But yet 50% more people doing this today than they did a year ago. Like Uber has 7.5 million active drivers on their platforms globally. But I have a magic wand, okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make you the CEO of Uber, okay?
Mhm.
For the next 2 minutes, you're the CEO of Uber. You're the new guy. How do you make your company profitable, but also how do you make drivers happy?
Well, first of all, I understand that a corporation is going to charge customers whatever they think they can get, and they should. And however, there comes a point where you have to acknowledge the fixed costs of doing business. And so the first thing that I would do is I would I would discover what the true costs are for operating and getting the rider to the driver. I would look at the cost per mile average, what it costs to own and operate a vehicle for the driver. Okay. And
But it's not
then,
their driver. It's not your driver. They're independent contractors.
no, I understand that. But if they don't pay in good faith, they're not going to get, eventually they're not going to get the jobs done, or people are just going to like steal the rides. They're going to tell the person to cancel. They're going to take cash. They're going to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you make it something where it's fair, and then finally um, the other thing I would do is I would come up with a amount per mile, kind of like they do in California, and pay that separate and above the cost of ownership and operation. Now, you have these two numbers. You have number X, which is what it costs Uber, number Y, what it costs me, okay? And then you have the passenger who's going to pay Z. That's going to cover both of those things and profit. It can't just be, we'll charge as much as we want. We'll rip the drivers off and we'll make a maximum profit. I don't see how this can survive. I don't. I mean, if I was
Yeah.
running the
Well,
company, that's what I would do. I would
okay.
stop that to ensure survival of my corporation.
Okay. Well, I mean, they have not only survived, they have thrived, right? Uber is a $145 billion company.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Remember, well, of
With
course,
with
we knew when
4
they went
million
public this
unhappy
was going to
drivers.
happen,
I mean,
right?
look, Uber's $145 billion company
Mhm.
with pretty much, I would say, look, I don't think everybody is unhappy driving for Uber or Lyft, right? And I think the complainers have a louder voice, to be perfectly honest with you. There
Mhm.
are a lot of people who enjoy doing what they're doing, and although albeit for 70 cents a cost or 72 cents, whatever it is. And maybe they're just mass challenged. I don't know. But if you look at Uber, the company is worth 145 billion. The rides that they're doing is going up every single quarter. They did 2.8 billion trips last quarter, and they have more drivers than ever on their platform. So if everything is so sideways or bad, because I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What, right? It's been going on for 10 years now, and you would think they would run out of drivers, they would just run out of riders because they're ripping both sides off, right?
Mhm.
So what's happening here? I mean, maybe we're the dumb ones in the room.
Well, I think what's going on here is, uh, well, first of all, Florida is probably a bad example. It is the worst. I'm telling you, man, you know, all the places I've driven, it's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst pay. It's the worst market. It's oversaturated, not only with uh, uh, newcomers, but uh, you know, a boatload of retirees who are here
Yeah.
and like, yeah, I got nothing to do. I want to get out of the house, you know. And you know, some of that is true for me, but you know, there comes a point where you get frustrated, you know, when you're sitting like St. Augustine is like a top 10 destination in the United States, travel and leisure. You look, it's always busy. There's no way I should be sitting for an hour and a half without a single ride, Uber or Lyft, at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, which is
Wow.
what happened last night.
Yeah.
An hour and a half? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it becomes to the point where you just go home. You know, you're like,
How
"Man,
was it? How was it 3 years ago? Because you said you've been in Florida for
it
three
was
years.
it was fine. And my intention when I not to work 12 or 14 hours a day. It was to work about six, maybe 6 or 8 hours, maybe 5, 6 days a week at the
Yeah.
most. And you know what? I was perfectly fine with that. I had money, I could do things. It's just completely fallen off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
obviously we're all doing it. Look, we're all doing it to get out of the house, this and that. We have our excuses to do it, but we're doing it to make money. I mean, to earn income. I'm not
yeah.
saying be profitable, right? It's one thing is for sure with these platforms, right? If you get out there, you will make something. That's where we're at now. Like we don't know. There's no
Yeah,
expectation. There's no expectation, but you'll make something. You'll make
like,
$10 in 10 hours, or you'll make $100 in 10 hours. But
right.
you will have something you didn't have before you turn the app on, which is what a lot of people I think are doing rideshare for
Oh,
these
oh
days. See?
yeah, and I don't blame them because they're in trouble because they've lost their job.
Yeah,
Or like Florida, this is like the worst place in the country. You could lose your job. They pay like
yeah,
$200 a week in unemployment. They only pay 12 weeks and that's it. And you're off.
yeah,
And you know, I mean, if you, there are jobs here, you know, regular jobs, but you know, for me, that's not an option. And look, anybody that's smart is also doing other stuff. You know, like
yeah,
I have another sideline thing that I'm doing. You have your channel, you
yeah,
know, everybody you have to. I guess maybe that's what I'm here to say to people. You gotta have something else going on.
okay,
And you know, Sergio, when I worked in the casino, I used to see people that would had worked many years in the casino and they went crazy because they didn't have anything else going on in their life and they didn't create anything. All they did was take, destroy, destroy, destroy. And that will drive you mad, man. You got to have like a guy, I don't care. I knew this guy who his job was to put the Cadillac emblem on the front of the Cadillac. This is up in Detroit.
yeah,
And you know, when they automated all that, he was in the union, he kept his job and he still sat there in a rocking chair reading a book while the robot put the thing on and then he would go and polish them up, you know.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, he could look at a Cadillac and go, you know what? I put that thing on there,
Yeah.
you know.
So we have only like a couple of minutes remaining, but
Okay.
at the end of every episode, I tell my guest to give our audience some advice. It doesn't have to be rideshare advice because I think you did plenty of that at the start, but any kind of advice would be appreciated from a veteran driver.
Well, I would say that number one, try as hard as you can to not tell people no. Um, you know, there's a way to say that without going, no, no, I'm not doing that. You know, you just say, well, can I do this? Can I do that? You know, be number one. Number two, treat people the way you want to be treated. Um, be respectful of women and girls, especially they're out late at night traveling by themselves. Sit for a minute, make sure they get in the house. Help them if they can't get in. Tell them, say, hey, if you can't get in this house, I'm still going to be here. Come on back. I've had that happen plenty of times,
Yeah,
you know. And general in life, you know, uh, if you can find something you're passionate about and do that. And then otherwise, just always approach everything with love in your heart, you know?
Yeah, well, there you go. Folks, here's Robert from St. Augustine, Florida. We may have to bring you back if this does well for a for a sequel.
Yeah,
But
I'll be happy to do part two or whatever
hard to
they call
do. Okay.
it.
Well, Robert, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your honesty. And here it is, Robert from St. Augustine, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
And
You
Sergio, keep up the good work, man. And I know
we're
you're
trying.
doing,
We're trying our best. And
yeah.
but for you, my advice would be please stay healthy and please stay safe out there.
Oh yeah, well, they tried to carjack me already up in Jacksonville. I left that part out, but yeah. Okay.
All right. You have a good
Will
one, man.
do. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. Say hi to Chris for me.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.